Hi, everybody. This is Daryl Dietrich. We're going to start this in about 2 minutes. We're just going to give some other people a chance to sign up. We had quite a bit of interest, so I'm going to wait 2 more minutes and then we will get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. So just a little bit of preliminary information. John Haydu is going to be running this on the other end. If you do have questions, you can unmute and ask at any time, or if you would rather, you can put it in the chat. I won't be paying attention to the chat, but John will, and John can interrupt me at any time. So feel free to ask questions. Or put them in the chat, so by unmuting. But other than that, if you could stay on mute, that'd be appreciated. Just a couple quick thank yous, John Haydu and Lynn Haydu for organizing the online session. It will be recorded, so we will share that later this week. And also to Claudette Guy and Carolyn Segreto for kind of inspiring this and helping organize this. So. Just real quick, a little bit about my teaching. I've been teaching AP Computer Science A for 17 or 18 years, and just recently went out to the AP Computer Science A Teacher Summit, which was in Facebook in California. Let me just say that next year, if you see the opportunity to go to that, they have a summit for both A and for principals. I highly recommend that you apply. They accept 100 people. It's fully paid. You get to hang out at Facebook for a couple days, put us up in a nice hotel, flew us out there and everything else. So it was in the first week in August, but I think I applied probably in May. What I'm going to do is to go through the PowerPoint that they have here. It is 262 slides, so I am going to go very quickly because this is 2 days worth of PowerPoints in 1 hour. But I've highlighted some of the parts that I want to do. I just want to do a disclaimer that as I'm showing this, whatever's on there is by AP. If I say something, there's a chance I could make a mistake, and that's on me. So whatever I say isn't necessarily the whole truth. I could make mistakes. Okay, so first thing is just a little bit about the growth of AP Computer Science A, and in that chart there. New Jersey's growth during that time was actually more like 309%. So we've actually done better than the national average when we're dealing with that. Again, I'm going to go through quickly here. There was the diversity awards. There was a number of people that won. 28 schools had the diversity award for both principals and computer science A. One of the ladies did present there, and this is her presentation. I will share this PowerPoint, so if anybody wants to look at that presentation, you can. And I apologize, this is in PDF, so I was not able to cut the slides out. This lady, a pretty cool presentation here in using classes, using emojis, so you could use the different variables and so forth when you're doing classes. I thought that was a pretty cool thing. And she also did classes using vehicles, so that she would have a vehicle that would have a class and then the different instance variables and so forth. So I'm not going to go into any more detail on that, but that is there if you want it. Slide 36. Okay, so Becky is in charge of the AP Computer Science A course, or the exam. So she did this presentation and a little bit about the frameworks. As far as the frameworks go, if you signed up to get one mailed to you, you should have gotten it already. If you did not sign up to get one mailed to you, I believe you can do it through the AP Central website, but there is a PDF form of this on the AP Central website. They did a great job of basically breaking the course down so that we could plan it a little bit better. This will be particularly valuable for new teachers as you're trying to plan your course. For experienced teachers, the changes are very little. So most of the changes I'm going to go over are things that if you want to change them, you can, but you don't have to. But there's a whole lot of resources that you can use out there that are now in this, now available for you. So exam overview, the exam is the same as it was before, 40 questions, multiple choice, 50% with 90 minutes, and free response, 4 questions, 50% for 90 minutes. For new teachers, I highly recommend the free response questions as the year goes on. I time my students with 22.5 minutes or give them 25 minutes so they can get used to it. The one thing that is a little bit different is they will guarantee that question 1 will be method and control structures. Question 2 will be classes. Question 3 will be arrays and array lists. And question 4 will be 2-dimensional arrays. So in the past, we kind of guessed at what the questions were like, but didn't really know for sure. I'm particularly excited about question 1 because there was very few of those in free response before. But these are the classes that you'll get. Again, feel free to ask questions at any time if you have those questions. Here's the breakdown of how much each section is now worth. Again, it's nice to have this. We could kind of guess at this before. Please notice that the Boolean expressions and the iterations and then the arrays are a huge part of it. So really, if you focus on those things, that's a big area to focus on. I mean, you really want to cover all of it, but as far as you, scheduling your time, you may want to look at that a little bit. So this will talk a little bit about the free response questions. Again, I will share this PowerPoint with you. What they did is they kind of modeled this after AP Computer Science principles, but they didn't do it just for AP Computer Science A. This is actually being prepared a similar thing for all AP courses. So they're giving this material to everybody for their AP courses. They can tell you a little bit about the modules and what units they are in. And I'm not going to go through this in too much detail, but if you look at your course exam description, which they call the CED, it'll have information about all of this stuff. So there is the CED. It breaks it down into what are the different things in each unit. So we have, I believe, 9 units, and within the unit, it then tells a little bit about standards, and also it has resources. If you look right here, these resources right here are from the Runestone Academy. It's an online textbook. About 2 years ago, I stopped using a physical textbook and I only use the Runestone Academy textbook. So it's free and it's online. And they actually have a second one now called CS Awesome. And CS Awesome is also free. I believe it's a free online textbook, but they link this to each unit. So Runestone Academy, if you want to take a look at it. They also do a little bit with Practice It and a little bit with Coding That as far as resources that they link it to. Again, lots of information, particularly for somebody who's new to it. You can look at the different practices. I'm not going to necessarily go through the multiple choice questions here. Okay, then the second thing is that John is the head grader, the chief reader, sorry, for the AP exam. The first thing that he really stressed is that he is looking for people that want to do grading. With the grading this year, for the first time, half of the people that are grading will be flown out to Missouri where he teaches to be a grader there, and half the people who do the grading will be able to do the grading from home. So they are looking for people to do the grading. It is either the first or second week of June. I don't remember exactly. So that's the chairs, and there's John. Multiple choice, each question 12.5%, total of 90 minutes. Again, important for new teachers to time your students with that. That was just about developing the exam questions. This is about reading. There is what the exams are looking like when they are reading them. They read 70,000 exams this year, 325 teachers. If I'm not mistaken, AP Computer Science Principal was over 80,000 exams this year. So AP Computer Science Principal actually passed AP Computer Science A this year. The growth in volume. The volume of exams, interesting here how, we had a dip, and part of the reason we're having so much problem, or had so much problem, is because we had to make up for that. So exam volume there. Just talking about scoring and being an AP reader. If you're interested, there's information. One thing I did that he stressed about this is that the scoring now, they've tried really, really hard. This is a free response scoring. They tried really, really hard that the points are not dependent on one another, so that if you mess up on the first thing, you can still get the other 4 points. I remember earlier on, if you messed up on one thing, you may not be able to get something after that. So the points are basically independent. One thing that was encouraged is if you really kind of have no idea how to do the problem, well, you know that maybe there's going to be a variable you have to declare. So if you just if your students declare a variable, they can get a point. Maybe they don't understand how to do the problem, but they can do that. Maybe if they know that it's a type int, then there's going to be a return type. So they're going to return the variable. They can get a point for doing something like that. With a for loop or putting in a for loop or something like that. So that's one thing I encourage my students is if you have no idea, at least put down some things that you probably know are going to be in there, and you can get some of the points in here. So scoring guidelines. Score distribution. About 27% get a 5 and 21% get a 4. And notice one thing that is unique about AP Computer Science A exam is that the number who get 1 is greater than the number who get 2. That is unique about that. But if you can see, about almost 70% pass the exam, not quite. Interesting score distribution over time. If you'll notice that over time, the number of people getting a 5s and 4s has not changed too much, but the number of people getting a 1 has decreased over time, which is a good sign to do that. These were the average scores out of 9 points for this year's exam. So free response number 1 is called leap year. The average was a 6 out of 9, and so forth. Now, as the scores go down, as it go through, you can see the scores a little bit lower. John did not feel that this was a harder problem, but that part of the reason is people just may have run out of time, but doesn't necessarily see problems go from easier to harder, just depending on what the students are comfortable with. I thought this was pretty interesting. So the scores that students got on free response number 1, by far the highest number of people got an 8. And if you look back at, I forget what the main error was. I'm sorry. There was an error and I forget what it was. So, so common errors and misperceptions, did not conclude upper bounds, off by 1. These are two big mistakes that you want to check on every single problem, especially the off by 1 error. Number 4, implementing their own algorithm for leap year. If you do not use the code that they already wrote on there, you will not necessarily get full credit, and it'll waste a lot more of your time. So it's very, very important that students understand that they should use the methods that they have been given to solve the problems. If they find the code is getting really long, they probably have done something wrong with that. So a little bit about improving performance. You may want to look back on that later. So recommendations, some test taking skills, which I just went over. Test taking skills, again, notice number 1 and the first and last one, read the question, biggest thing that they have. Write legibly. He said that is a big problem, and the biggest problem he sees with writing legibly, other than some kids just can't write, is kids erase something and try to write over the erasure and they can't read it. He recommends do not erase anything, simply cross it out. Do not erase anything, okay? I'm just going to jump down here, read part B, even if I'm unable to do part A. So if a student can't do part A and they leave it blank, they can still get full credit for part B. And part B may actually use part A, but part A does not have to be done in order to be part B. It's not in here, but you don't want to do any commenting at all. And a big one here is preconditions are your friends. You really want to read about the preconditions and the postconditions. The preconditions might say all numbers entered will be positive or whatever it might be. It's important for your students to understand that. Common errors, I'm just going to hold on here for a second. You can read through it. So some of the things they recommended, just to know that there is a AP Central teacher community. I get about 1 email a day in digest form, and it's really pretty good. So if you want to join that AP Central teacher community, actually I'm not sure if that's the same thing, but I get 1 email a day for that. I believe it is the same thing. There also is a Facebook page, which is unofficial. I have been told that this gives the simpler answers and this gives the more detailed answers when you're doing it. So you may want to look at that, particularly again for new teachers. Becoming a chief reader, and there's John and Becky. Okay, let me just look at my notes. Okay, this was just a presentation on using art. This guy helped write one of the labs. I forget the name of the lab, but this is not the lab. So go from there. Okay, Becky came back. An introduction for the resources. So again, this is for all AP students and teachers, not just for computer science. So there are something that is called topic questions, and topic questions are within the unit. If anybody uses something like Albert, I use the Albert IO. Topic questions would be, some of the simple questions that are in Albert to make sure you check for understanding. A key thing that they pointed out is that the topic questions are not AP style questions. They are just checking for understanding. They're not difficult enough to be AP style questions. So they'll talk about the content and the skill. And then the topic questions, there's a list of topic questions for every single unit, for every single skill. So you can go into that. If we're done in plenty of time, I will go to the website and show you a little bit of this. I'm not an expert with it right now, but there are topic questions, both multiple choice and free response with the topic questions. With the topic questions, they will give you an explanation of why it is the correct answer. And allow you to do that. One thing that I did hear, I think Claudette told me this, I don't remember if I heard it in the session or not, you are not allowed to use these topic questions on any of your tests or quizzes or anything for grading. You can only use them for completeness, so they do not want you using these on tests or quizzes in your classes, the topic questions. The other questions you can, and I'll get to them in a second. So here's an example of a topic question, which would be good for making sure that students understand this, but it would not be an AP test question. So there's something called a personal progress check. Personal progress checks, you can see down at the bottom, it has some information about it and then multiple choice questions. These personal project checks, and I'm going to say this, I'm not 100% positive, but these are all mostly released questions. So they may be some from previous exams that were released. So you would need to, if you use those released exams for an assessment at the end of the year, your students may have seen some of those questions throughout the year with the personal progress checks questions. So as a teacher, you have an opportunity to create assignments for your students, and you can assign different questions and figure out how many questions you want. Again, there's multiple choice and free response. One thing that is neat with the free response is that it actually gives you an opportunity to check off which points they have. So they'll have 9 checkoff boxes. There will be no half points for any of these. All these should be full 1 points, and you can actually grade how many points your student gives if you want to. It is not an automatic grader, but it'll grade it. You can grade the questions. Designed to fit 45-minute periods. I forget exactly what that is, but something with the assignments if you're giving the assignments. Going from there. Okay, I'm going to go through these slowly. So this is that checkoff box I was telling you about. So you can see if there's points earned by checking it off, and we'll tell them then what is right and wrong with those problems. So, you know, a bit easier than just reading the code. Now, one thing that was said about this, I'm going to throw out 2 things right now while I'm thinking about it. One thing, there was a question asked if the free response questions would ever go on, would ever be typed in on a computer rather than handwritten, and the general consensus was no, for I think a couple reasons, but one of those reasons is that places like Google and Facebook and other companies actually have you handwrite code on a whiteboard when they're hiring you in the hiring process. So people thought that there was some value in having it handwritten. I also think it probably has to do with the differences in IDEs and so forth. So, there is no plan to switch to it being typed in. Second thing is I asked the question, is there any plan of switching to Python? And the answer to that was no. There is not right now. It has not been in discussion. If they decided to switch to Python or some other language, it would take at least 5 years for that switch to actually happen. So, and based on all the work they just did with this new materials, I can't imagine they're going to be doing it anytime soon. So I think we are with Java for quite a while. John, have we gotten any questions, or is everybody still there?
We had one brief question. I answered it already.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure I wasn't talking to myself. I haven't talked this long straight. So if you give your students the progress questions, you can tell how students are doing. They were specifically said they do not use any red. They didn't want to let kids be discouraged. So they go from yellows to greens. But you can tell how your students are doing with the assignments that you've had for progress. And there's quite a few things. You can click on the individual students. You can do quite a few different ways of checking it. So for those who may have used Albert, this is, you know, it's kind of similar to that, but this is a free resource from College Board. Again, by the individual student, they can tell you what answer the student actually answered. So then you can get an idea of what students as a class as a whole might be getting wrong, such as question number 1, it looks like 3 people answered C. So we need to look at what was the answer for C and go from there. John, just real quick, can you see my mouse?
I can see your mouse.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I keep pointing to things. I want to make sure. Teacher homepage, give you a breakdown for how many students are in each category, and also for submission, how many students have submitted things. So the students, it is recommended that all your students should create this account within the first 2 days of class. And I will show you that in a minute. Your College Board coordinator should have created a class for you. I'll show you what mine looks like. If not, there is a way that teachers can do it, but it sounded like a bit more of a pain. But it was recommended that, well, in the first couple days of class that you get your students on here and registered. The second part of that is that the students will all need to register for the AP exams, I believe by November, and they will be doing it through this same account to make sure they're registering for exams. So it's all linked together. So students have access to the assigned question bank, the progress dashboard, and so forth. So lots of things for your students to use to help prepare for the test. Here's the feedback of the teacher left some feedback as to how they're doing on that, and here are the points for the free response question. Actually, those are multiple choice questions. I'm sorry. So I believe that in the course exam description, there are some instructional activities. I think I missed a slide. Let me go back. You'll have to take a look at this, okay? I haven't spent enough time on that, but all right. I'm going to stop right now and see if there's any questions because I need to breathe for a second. Does anybody have any specific questions? Okay. This is one of the presenters. This is not part of what was, exactly what we're talking about with the resources, but I thought this was a great lab. I'm going to go through it very, very quickly, but it's for two-dimensional arrays. And what he did for two-dimensional arrays is he created a theater and he gave seats, and he had different things with seats in a theater. Thought it was a great way to do it. And then he made it more complicated. He'd have a customer that had height, and he could then place the customers into the two-dimensional arrays. He could give them to tell if a seat was occupied or not. And then this was interesting. He could tell if a customer in front of one was 3 inches taller than another customer. And he had a way to find the most occupied row. He could figure out which customers have to be moved because somebody wasn't taller than them in front of it. And he had an output like this, and he found the tallest customer. And then he also extended that later for the top kids to do random placements. He also extended it to put an aisle in the middle, and he also extended it to reserve 2 seats next to each other. So just some cool extensions. That will be in one of the resources that I do share with you, the code for that. Judy is the one who, she teaches in Texas, in a school in Texas. I can't remember the name of it, but it's like the #1 school in the nation. She is the moderator for the AP Computer Science listserv or group. So this is just her suggestions. I'm actually going to skip through this though. And this was story time and talking about arrays and recursion. Okay, back to Becky. All right, so the new labs. So this was really interesting to me. So for those who aren't aware, you are not required to use any of the labs. What your requirement is that you have to have 20 hours of lab requirement. Now, if you create your own labs, you can just use your own labs. If your AP Computer Science class is working now perfectly the way it is, then keep doing what you're doing. You don't have to change anything at all. The only requirement is that they want kids actually programming on a computer at least 20 hours worth of time. They provided us with 3 labs, I think about 3 years ago, and these are the 3 labs, and this shows the percentage of teachers that actually use those labs. So me personally, I use Magpie and I use PictureLab. Those are the 2 that I used. Magpie had a lot to do with strings, and PictureLab had a lot to do with 2-dimensional arrays. What I did like about the labs is it gave an opportunity for kids to read other people's code and expand and change and modify the code of other people's code. So, but I also give a lot more labs that are smaller labs that are my own labs. So the requirement is this, you can use these. However, they're gonna give us some more labs, and I'll explain that in a second. So they're adding 4 more labs, so now we'll have 7 labs. They basically took the labs and they are similar to the free response questions. So there's a new lab called Consumer Review, which is methods and control structures, and it also deals with strings. So in reality, that is very similar to the Magpie lab. So if you like the Magpie lab, keep using it. If you want to try something different, Consumer Review. What I will say is that if you are a brand new teacher, I think I would use these 4 new labs. Actually, I wouldn't use all 4. Maybe I'm gonna take that back. But I would pick from these 4 new labs because the resources are much better. They have nice handouts for the kids. It just makes a bit more sense. These labs do. You know, some of these other labs I think are good or okay, but I do think that if you're starting from scratch, I would consider this. If you are an experienced teacher and you don't want to change, don't change. If you want to change, change. So the first one basically deals with strings and conditional statements. So that would be free response question number 1. Second one basically deals with arrays and array list, which would be similar to 11s, I believe. I'm not positive about that. I haven't used 11s. But arrays and array lists, which I think was free response question number 3. Stenography is built on PictureLab. I already do the stenography part of PictureLab, but this does more of it. You do not have to do PictureLab first. You can do stenography by itself if you wanted to. Again, a little bit more detailed, a little bit better resources with it. It is a 2-dimensional array, so it's equivalent to free response question number 4. And then Celebrity is a GUI-based one. With Celebrity's GUI-based, it's based on classes and building classes. So that's where that is. Somebody told me, I did this, I only heard it from Carolyn, I think. One of these requires Java 8, but AP Computer Science College Board recommends that you use something from Java 4 through 7 when you're doing it. Java 8, there are things in Java 8 that aren't necessarily tested on the exam, so it was recommended Java 4 through 7. That's all from memory, so we'd have to double check that. But one of these, it was said that they required Java 8. I think it was Consumer Review, but I'm not positive about that. Carolyn, are you on by any chance? I think she was going on vacation. So the new labs, there's a student version and a teacher version with handouts and activities. They're pretty good. So the Consumer Review, I think I just went over parts of that. Much more detail on what it covers and where it falls into the curriculum, so that's helpful for everybody. So basically, Consumer Review starts with this. You get a review for like a pizza for a restaurant or something, and then every place there's a star, you change it to another word of that type from a list of words that you're creating. So it's a string, and you're pulling apart the string and you're putting the words into the string. So you take this review and you modify it into that review. I have not done these labs, so what is on this slide is about all I can tell you. Data. This one is kind of neat because it actually pulls things from the weather website, some sort of weather website. So you're using a third-party code here to pull things from weather.gov, and this is the only GUI that's associated with it. This pop-up window, from my understanding. But you can pull up information about temperature in San Francisco or whatever. So Stenography, as I said, is built on top of Picture Lab, which Mark used to be down at Georgia Tech. Can't remember Mark's last name. And Barbara Erickson created it down at Georgia Tech. So this is an extension of theirs. So the extension of it is that you can hide a picture within a picture. So it focuses on that. However, it's actually hiding a colored picture within the picture. So that's the difference there. So it focuses on hiding colored pictures within a picture. So here was the original picture and here is the new picture. And you'll notice there's small change in red, the small change in blue, and a small change in green at a particular location. From hiding it in there. So that's where those pictures were hidden in there. And then Celebrity is the last one, dealing with array lists. It's a game. I guess there's a game you can play that's called Celebrity or something like that. And it gives you clues, and you're supposed to try to guess who the celebrity is. So Turn Back Time, they guessed Madonna. This is a poor choice. The clue is Turn Back Time. They guess Cher. It's correct. Next celebrity is Material Girl. So it's kind of a guessing game using arrays and array list.
Hey Daryl, we have a quick question where our participants can find the 4 new labs.
So I will take you to it afterwards, but as of right now, the place that you find the new labs is on your audit page, your AP audit page, and it's at the bottom of the AP audit page. I will take you there later.
And to add, right now, participants actually can't unmute themselves. So I'm going to just click unmute all for everybody, if you wouldn't mind muting yourselves so you have that control.
So maybe that's why I got no questions.
That might be it.
Okay, the perfect slide. Answers to your questions. Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask about any of that stuff? Okay. This is a teacher that has a robust computer science program, and just what she did to make it robust, a lot of outreach and so forth. So that was that presentation. This teacher did a presentation on differentiated instruction and how he differentiates things by expanding upon things. And this one did creating resources. I'm not going to go over that in any detail. Okay, I did want to say this. So there's online free resources online. So there's an online IDE. I'm not sure how you say that one. And the second one, Replit. I'm probably going to try to use this with some of my students. I use Eclipse right now. I like Eclipse because it's industrial grade, and it's I have students working in the tech industry who use Eclipse, so that's a good idea. However, it can be a real pain for kids to install on their computers at home, and it's a bit too much. So this Replit is good. The second thing about this is my understanding it works on Chromebooks. So if you're a school with Chromebooks, then this is a possibility. I think both of these. I don't remember about this first one, but the Replit I did get that impression. So so something to try. If somebody has used it before and thought it good or bad, I'd love to hear from you and hear what you said or what you
We
think.
have a question from Laura Santucci. She has her hand up. If you want to go ahead, Laura.
Hi, my question is about the labs. I see
Yes.
that the stenography, for example, is an extension of the picture lab. Does it make sense to use some of the old labs and then use these as well? You know?
So this is my answer as a teacher. You will not have time. I basically, I would suggest at the minimum, I would pick one of the two labs that deals with strings and conditional statements, which would be, I'm not good with those names, but either Magpie or the other one that goes along with that. And then I would pick one of the labs that deals with arrays and array lists. Two-dimensional arrays, personally, that's what I do. So you can teach all 7 labs if you have time for that, but I doubt very much you'll have time for it. So I would pick and choose the ones that you think your students are gonna benefit the most from when it comes to that. So the two that I'm just gonna continue simply with one of them that deals with strings and one of them that deals with two-dimensional arrays. But if you wanted to build on top of it, that's fine. I just can't imagine having the time.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And Gloria, do you still have a question, or was it's simply where you can get the labs?
I was fine. That answered my question. Thank you.
Okay.
Can I just ask if anybody uses Replit?
I've tried it, but haven't started using it regularly with the class.
Okay, is it worth trying?
I think so, and I also, from what I hear, think it has improved upon what it was 2 years ago in terms of its features. So I don't know. I haven't been using it this past year.
Okay. I know with
Daryl,
yes.
CS Awesome is based on Replit.
Okay.
Must be pretty good.
Yes. And improved, I guess. I don't know too much about CS Awesome, but I've heard a lot about it recently. So, but both of those are free curriculum. If you go to Runestone, one of them is Barbara Erickson's AP Computer Science A, and I think the other one is CS Awesome. Wait, am I correct in saying that? You get CS Awesome through Runestone?
You can just get it through, if you just looked up CS Awesome, and that's Daryl Hoffman who wrote that one.
But
Okay.
Runestone is correct as well, I believe. You can find it either way.
Yeah, this is just something that, 17 years ago when I was starting my classes, and well, I want to thank Fran Trees for being my resource at that time, but we didn't have a whole lot of other things to do, and they're just providing resources that makes it easier for new teachers to get into this. So that's where we are. Any other questions?
We had one comment from Matt Davis saying he uses Replit, and he says giving feedback is easy. You can share sample code pretty easily.
Good. Okay, the two online communities that you want to get involved with are these two. I'm going to tell you that I've been involved with this AP Computer Science teachers community, actually on and off, but when I was a new teacher, this helped get me through. It was really good, and you just have teachers answering your questions. So, and I understand the Facebook one. Well, when I started teaching this, Mark Zuckerberg wasn't in college yet, so Facebook wasn't around yet. So this is the discussion board. I don't get it in this format. I get it as a digest email, but I guess you can have the discussion board, and you can search questions on the discussion board. And the last thing that I have in the PowerPoint is this, and then I'm going to go on to, I'll go on to show you some other resources. But the last thing is this. I am really considering doing this year. AP with We is basically service projects. It's an opportunity for students to do service projects that are related to computer science. their service project has to have an impact locally and an impact globally, but it doesn't have to be an overwhelming deal. And in order for them to get credit for it, basically all that happens is they get something on their AP transcript that says they're, you know, a we person. But in order for them to get credit for it, they just have to do 4 things. And then you just have to confirm they did those 4 things and check the boxes. So the things they need to do is they need to investigate and learn. They need to create an action plan, take an action, and report and celebrate. And then you simply say, yes, 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 and they get credit. So there's nothing that you have to turn in. There's nothing you have to grade, but it's called AP We. Some examples were code. But I specifically asked, I have a student-run hackathon, and I specifically asked, could I have my hackathon count? And the answer I got was yes. I think right in the beginning here, they're pretty wide open, and they'll allow people to do whatever. However, as you know, I'm sure as time goes on, they might put some more restrictions on it. But you know, if you do community service stuff with your students, they can get some recognition from it from College Board. Any questions? Okay, and I think we have this someplace else, but this will be a link to those other teachers' resources, such as that guy that was doing the theater thing with the classes. All his classes were on that link right there. So I'll give you a second in case you want to take a picture or write it down, type it, whatever you want to do. Oh, I forgot I was gonna say this. So I thought this was interesting. This is the survey. We had 27 people respond to the survey. I don't know how many we actually have on here now, but what was really interesting is it's split. 25% have 10 plus years of experience, and 25% are first year teachers. Which is really exciting to me, you know, to have both the experience and the new people. One of the reasons I wanted to do this webinar, other than to share some of this information, was to hopefully start creating a network so that people who might be struggling have people that they can ask. So you know, you can use the AP community, the big community, but I also want people to feel comfortable asking on our CSTA NJ site and just feeling, if you have a question about something, please help each other, and maybe we can link up some mentors for doing this. So I know that this is a very difficult class to teach for the first time. It's I don't want to scare any of you, but it's substantially more difficult than AP Computer Science principles. But we have people with experience that can help you. So that's where that is. Okay. This is a second thing. I will share this, but I created a tiny URL. The tiny URL is going to have some of the resources, including the PowerPoint I just shared, and some other resources. So on that tiny URL, I will show you in 30 seconds what you can see on that. Thank you, John, Lynn, Claudette, and Carolyn again. Okay, so that tiny URL takes you to a, oops, that's the wrong drive. A tiny URL takes you to this drive. So one thing that I've done here, I think this might be my list of free response questions. Basically, I've given what each free response question covers, and I use this when I'm assigning free response questions. Here's the PowerPoint I just went over. So these this 11s, this Magpie, this Picture Lab stuff, that is all from Caroline Segreto. It is information that she made up. She and I did this a couple years ago when these came out, and she created all the PowerPoints and presentations. She was nice enough to share them, so if you want to use those. And then Claudette spent quite a bit of time making this link here. So there's a link to everything we're talking about. There's some great overview videos, and those overview videos, some of them you should share with your students. There's a little bit there from Judy. And then Claudette just did a lot of work here, as Claudette always does. So the topics, notice that she broke them down by what they are. And this, when we say we, that is mine and Carolyn's recommendation to you. These are the two that we do, but those two, in our view, are two of the most important to do. And I'm going to show you one more thing. I just want to go through this and see if there's anything else. So additional resources at the bottom. And this is this Facebook page, not the Facebook, oh, that's the Facebook page. This is the seating chart one. So, so that's where we're at. All right. And then, okay, so I'm going to start here with AP Central. And just to show you real quickly, because I've got less than 10 minutes to finish this up, what the resources are. So if you go into AP Central, I found that that is the easiest way for me to get around, is to log into my AP Central account. I can find out about my scores and so forth. If I go down to the bottom of this page, well, first of all, the first thing I want to show you is I have a block A and a block E for AP CSA this year. I have another teacher teaching principles this year, so I'm not actually teaching it this year, but I did last year. But I have this, and here's a code for my students to join. So in the first couple days of class, I'll have all my students join this, and then I'll have a list of them, and I'll be able to give all their assignments and everything else associated with this. If you do not have this, the first thing you should do is talk to your AP coordinator. They're the ones that are supposed to set it up. If that is not possible for whatever reason, I believe Carolyn set her own up, so maybe she can give some pointers on that. This is the first thing you should see. So that's how you're going to follow all the stuff in your classes. Okay. The AP Classroom. So I'm going to go to my AP Computer Science A. They have here the multiple choice questions by units. So if I go to unit 1, these are the topic questions, and the topic questions are the ones that are not real AP questions, but they can help you out. And then down at the bottom is the progress check. And I have not played with it enough to know, but there's all this information. So there's a ton of information that you want to play with. So that is under AP Classroom. So again, I am under, I went to AP Central and logged in. Digital Portfolio is not for this class. Teacher Community is where you can sign up to be on that teacher community. And then the AP Audit. So let me just see here. If you go to the AP Audit page, I may need to sign in. So if I go to the AP Audit page, oh, come on. I just had all this stuff up here. Oh, resources. You go to practice exams, and under the practice exams, they will have the files for Magpie, the files for the 11 labs, and then all the other labs will be down below. As well as the teacher resources for those. And then for new teachers, there are released exams that are there. So you have some released exams that you can use. Again, I believe that the released exam questions are used on the website. And the only thing I'm not seeing, and I don't know if somebody can help me, is where the free response questions are. They are extremely important for new teachers to find that. If you can't, just look up AP Central free response questions. They will give you all the free response questions back to, I forget, 2004, I think, is where that was. So. Okay, I think I'm done. I think you know everything I know now. So do I have additional questions, please? This thing's blinking down here, John. Does that mean?
Which thing is blinking?
So the chat thing.
That might be me. I just asked, are there still secured exams? And I see that we have the personal progress check questions. Aren't there some place where they have exam questions we can use on tests?
Yeah, so this is Daryl speaking, not AP. I think that you're allowed to use the progress questions on tests. I tell you what, if you read through the PowerPoint again when she was talking about those progress questions, it might be better to double check like that. But I believe that those are the ones you're allowed to use on tests. There's a test bank. Oh, I don't want to leave the webinar. There is a test bank. Someplace. I believe it's in the classroom. There's a test bank that you can pull from also. But I think the test bank may be the same as those progress questions. I'm not 100% positive about that. Sorry I couldn't be of more help.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had my hand up, but I think my question was pretty much the same. I thought the progress checks we were not allowed to use for tests, but I guess we'll just have to figure that out.
Okay, that's one of the reasons I said that in the beginning, that I'm not positive and may make mistakes, is I got a whole bunch of information in 2 days, and I may have had those wrong. So one or the other you're allowed to use, and one you're not. So it is in the PowerPoint, so we just need to review the PowerPoint to confirm. I will try to find that out too and share it in an email. Go ahead.
In the sheet about the handout, the links document that I put in there from Judith Humrick, it
Yes.
talks about that, the thing that's italicized. Some of the tests built with from the question bank can be used for letter grades. However, we encourage thoughtful use of questions, blah, 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 formative things, which are the PPCs, and the topic questions can count simply as completed or class participation toward the student grades. So it sounds like ones from the question bank make sense to have student grades on. The topic questions and PPCs should just be, formative type of questions, if that helps.
Okay. Yep, and so I guess I misspoke a little bit then. I guess maybe the PPCs and the question banks are separate from each other. As far as that. Thank you, Claudette. That helps a lot. Anything else? So I'm just going to reiterate that for our new teachers, first of all, welcome to our community. We have a pretty awesome community here that's willing to help each other. I have really enjoyed my opportunity to be involved with Computer Science Teacher Association of New Jersey. So with that, please reach out if you have questions. You can post it, or you can email me. And then from my experienced teachers, please be willing to help as mentors for those younger teachers. We are going to see a lot more growth in the next couple years. We are hoping to have the New Jersey State Computer Science Action Plan to the governor this fall, actually in the next 2 months probably. And the standards committee is meeting now to work on revised, much better set of standards. And in addition, the $2 million that the governor has awarded for computer science is going to be used for professional development, K through 12. So we hopefully will have some professional development opportunities, some additional professional development opportunities. But and in the action plan will be a release of what the endorsement is going to look like. So we're working on all that stuff. So this fall, There will be a lot more information shared, and over the course of this year, hopefully the standards will be released over the course of the school year. They probably won't count, they probably won't be adopted yet, but all of that will lead to a much bigger growth of computer science in K-12. So we're really looking at trying to push down into the younger grades. So, okay. Any last questions? Please feel free to email me. Between Claudette and I, we will get out, between John and Claudette and I, we will get out an email with some links and information by the end of the week. Thank you very much for participating. You guys have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
You. You're welcome.
Thanks, Daryl.
You're welcome.